Today is the end of the Republic. The end of a regime that acquiesces to disorder. At this very moment, in a system far from here, the New Republic lies to the galaxy, while secretly supporting the treachery of the loathsome resistance. This fierce machine upon which you have built, upon which we stand, will bring an end to the Senate, to their cherished fleet. All remaining systems will bow to the First Order and will remember this as the last day of the Republic. After the Battle of Exegol, there existed two twins who were to carry the legacy of the Sith and the Final Order. But the brother rebelled, believing this legacy would go against all that he knew. But the sister stood before this rebellion, and they fought in mortal combat. The brother got away and saved two children, but it wasn't without its challenge. This is their story. But the focus will not just be on the brother and the children he saved. It'll be focused on him. A young man who walked in darkness now will go on a journey of redemption and will sound the requiem to the past he tries to run away from. And the young man's name was After Palpatine's defeat, Ben went into hiding. After all that he had done as Kylo Ren, he could never face those who hurt or Rey ever again. After the war, Ben found himself in a humble lifestyle with a job as a junkyard worker. But his past has a way of coming back to him as he tried with all his might to hide any trace of his powers or his identity. After wronging his father, his master, his mother, and even his lover, why would he want to cause such havoc or cause any more suffering anymore? But Ben would soon begin to realise that he is already on a healing path when fate crash lands on the surface of Udra. And 3 visitors arrive before the young former Knight of Ren. The young man who escaped the Final Order, Kare, asked Ben to get the 2 children under his protection back to where they came from before his sister Arm captures them both and taking them to their master. Maeve and Jean were orphaned by the First Order and were sent to be taken for their training as apprentices for the new Sith Order. But they also wanted their blood for another purpose that goes against the natural order of the galaxy. Ben refused, saying that Ben Solo and Kylo Ren are dead and should stay that way. Kare pleads with Ben, but Ben tells Kare to protect them instead. But Kare reveals that he and Arm were given a tracking beacon since birth, a way to track their bodies so that they could be used for spare parts. After hearing Maeve and Jean's pleas, and getting to bond alongside them, Ben agrees to help just before Arm arrives. Kare fends off his sister the best that he could, but he was captured for interrogation as Arm sees Ben flying off with the children. Ben, Maeve, and Jean were able to get away. The young ones were understandably scared, especially Maeve, but Ben comforts them with stories about a man who had a master who went down a dark path with no return. But then someone came along and returned him to the light. He didn't reveal the boy's name, but he did reveal that he loved his master like a mother. The boy he was referring to, of course, was himself. Ben was too scared to tell them the truth, to who did all those horrible things. It would be too much for them, considering what they'd been through. Ben had to get away to get them somewhere safe, and the resistance was his only hope. Sadly, he had no means of communicating, nor did he have any capabilities of doing that beforehand. They had to keep moving. But they should find information from resistance agents all over the galaxy. He remembered about a resistance agent who arrived in Akiva, and thankfully, she was there. Karsha Mazgren. Karsha was once an ally to Finn and Rose, who helped them stop the First Order in the past. This further assures Ben that she would be able to help, but Karsha got into a bit of a pickle. She gambled her ship and lost. Thanks to the help of Maeve and Jean, Ben not only exposed a cheater, but also got Karsha's ship back. But not without a fight. Despite Ben not having a lightsaber, they were able to get away as fast as they could. They thought themselves safe until the gambler who attacked them was a bounty hunter who was working for Arm, who informs her master that Ben was on the move, on his way to the planet where destinies will change, Eton. With communications busted on Karsha's ship, the relay on Eton was their only hope. They arrived on Eton and were welcomed by a crowd who was very different than the last planet. Everyone was staring at them with cold stares, as if something was making them mad, but from the crowd a warm, gentle smile appeared before them to welcome them home. The man reveals himself to be Trace Rengel, a former Jedi Padawan who survived the Jedi Purge and who was close to Luke Skywalker before his demise. Karsha leaves to find the relay to call Maeve and Jean to get picked up, with Trace giving Karsha some escort just in case. While their meal was being prepped, Ben is asked by Maeve and Jean if they would ever see each other again. Ben was unsure, and Jean didn't like the answer and ran away. Ben and Maeve are caught up, and Ben tries to explain his reasons. Jean revealed that he knows who Ben is. He knows that Ben is Kylo Ren. He sensed it, and demanded to know if Ben loves them or not. Maeve leaves the hug, and all three would embrace together before dinner had begun. After dinner, the kids went out to play, and Ben and Trace were left to talk. Trace thanks Ben for bringing the children here. Brave, but foolish. Just like Lop. Ben was shocked when he heard that, and asked Trace how he survived the purge when he looked so young. Trace reveals that he had obtained a power that could restore his youth by draining the blood of his victims and become stronger. But Lop saw what he was trying to do next, so Trace had the Knights of Ren kill her. Ben force-pushed Trace in anger, but was pushed back into the mud, where the mask of Trace was removed, as he sees the communication tower explode and the kids captured. Maeve and Jean were Force-sensitive, who possessed the power to heal and to restore power, and their blood is needed for Trace's goal to be achieved, a goal of perfect immortality, and to become the heir of Darth Plagueis. Ben tried all he could to stop Trace, but he overwhelmed and bested Ben, leaving him only to watch as Trace took Maeve and Jean away. The angry villagers stomped and battered the one who was once Kylo Ren. But Ben was soon saved by Karsha, who got out of the explosion just in time after remotely calling the Resistance, who took her and Ben back to one of their bases on the restored Vardos, where General Poe Dameron awaits and arrests Ben for questioning. Ben was left defeated and tried to reconnect with the Force. But there was some trouble. Thankfully, he finally found a connection with someone similar. Unfortunately for Ben, it wasn't Lop or even Luke, but it was Darth Maul. Maul had been on a similar path to where Ben is. Not exactly the same, But he must come to the same decision, to continue the cycle of the Jedi or the Sith, or to create something better. If not for Ben, then for the children. Ben found it odd to be receiving this advice from Darth Maul of all people. But as they talk, they found themselves on the same path after all, much to the surprise of everyone. But can Ben get out of the darkness and into a path that's pure? Well, the rest of the story should answer that. Ben sat imprisoned with no way out, but then Finn entered his cell for questioning. After a heart-to-heart, Finn could see that the kids had changed the once powerful Knight of Ren and helped him escape, making it look like Ben escaped on his own. After getting on a U-wing and escaping the wrath of Poe Dameron, there was one place Ben needed to go before finding the kids. Finn told Ben that Captain Phasma was given a report of a Sith fortress that hides on the outskirts of Korriban, north of the first pyramid. But before anything, to truly be reborn, he would need two things: his crossguard lightsaber from Kefir and his old helmet. It was time to bury Kylo Ren once and for all by stopping Trace. Ben soon arrived on Korriban and fended off Trace's Sith clone army and dashed towards the pyramid to rescue the kids. He sensed someone else's presence, and it was Nare. Ben gives Nare his lightsaber and tasks Nare with finding the children, but he was stopped by and the twins engaged in another battle, a battle to the death. Nare was on the ropes, but Maeva Jean's force powers had reduced Arn's lightsaber count to 1, allowing Nare to best her, but does not kill her, not just out of mercy, but because they're family, because he wants to create a peaceful cycle for the future generation, just as Ben is doing now. Ben now stands face to face with Trace who slashes his helmet in front of him, declaring the only one standing before Trace now was the real Ben Solo. Unfortunately, Trace won't be denied his destiny and attacks Ben in the hopes of destroying him and the hypocrisy of the Jedi. It was a battle that summoned thunder from the heavens, but it had been a long time since he fought in a lightsaber battle, so Ben was knocked down cold. Nare and Arm intervened and fought Trace to their last breath, but it was not enough as Trace began to absorb their life force. Ben lay down on the floor. He didn't have enough to keep on fighting, but he couldn't quit. Maeve and Jean needed him, as did Nare and Arm, and in that moment he heard voices from Maul, from Lop, and then from Rey. Leia's saber that was thought to be buried on Tatooine, that was in the possession of Rey at the time, appeared before Ben's hand, and fights Trace until he beats him, which he did. Ben gives Trace a chance to be reborn, just as he had, to make an order that surpasses the Jedi and the Sith for the better of the galaxy. But Trace, fueled by the hatred of the Jedi and the Sith, refused, and he lunged at Ben. And in that moment, Arm throws one of her broken sabers at Trace, causing him to fall to his demise. Maeve, Jean, and Ben embraced. It was finally over, as the Resistance arrived to rescue them. Ben thought the kids would be safe with the Resistance, with someone who could protect them, and hopes that Poe Dameron could do just that. But even Poe knows that Ben is the one to protect them. Ben, Maeve, Jean, Nare, and Arm leave to find a place to call home. And Ben knew just the place the one place where they could find peace. There, on Cathby, a rebirth had occurred. Kylo Ren was no more. As is the Ben Solo of the past. But he'll never be forgotten. Now, the new Ben Solo walks in the middle to save those in need and to bring balance to the Force by forging our own path, a path for all to share. A path that will bring this galaxy to a bright future. And so another saga comes to an end.